personal projects and ideas. This part is more about history, long-term thinking, and ideas for cyberpunk. And we are not here to have it without join us in person, and Kurt Pan and Jiao, and they will lead with the panel discussion. And this session will last about 1 hour and a half, and we will have 1 hour and 20 minutes, and we have 20 minutes for audience open questions. But if you're gonna ask a question, please raise your hand, and please keep it short and tight, and that's like so we can have more questions. So I'll pass the mic to Jiao. Okay, go to start.
And today it's about cyberpunk and data assembly. So for the audience here, I think many of them don't have a very clear idea of cyberpunk, and some of them might have some knowledge about it. And so can you explain what's cyberpunk, and also what's your first hand experience on cyberpunk?
So, cyberpunk as an idea actually started long before Ethereum, long before Bitcoin. Really, in the 1980s and in the 1990s. And like originally, they were working on technologies like very early forms of digital cash. So David Chong's Bcash, for example, which tried to protect people's privacy. So even the bank cannot see your transactions. There was a lot like PGP, like basically encrypted messages. The very first form of like encryption, and encryption is of course completely normal now, right? But back then it was a very cool idea. Like basically people working on these collection of tools that try to use computers and cryptography in particular to create
Sorry, can you do it a bit louder?
Okay, is this better? Yeah, to create an internet that's better at protecting people's privacy, better at protecting people's freedom, better at being open to global participation, at resisting attempts to censor it. And like these were things that a lot of people were starting to think about in the 1990s. And then it's like I think since then a lot of those ideas have made their way into like various parts of more mainstream software, right? So like for example, it's very normal now that the internet is encrypted, right? Like HTTPS is there by default. Also, encrypted messaging is, I think, finally winning this decade. More and more people are using like Signal, and is like the most popular one. Other messaging apps that are actually encrypted, and so like the company that runs it can't just like read all of the private messages that you're sending to everyone. And then also, of course, in the 2000s we saw Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin was this like end of this like 30-year journey of trying to create like some form of properly internet native money, right? And like really like B-Money, David Chong's project in 1982 was the very first one, and then that was eCash, right? And then there was B-Money by Wei Dai in the late 1990s. Then there was like reusable proofs of work, the Bitgold, these ideas from Nick Szabo and from Hal Finney, and then finally, like Satoshi had to put all of these different pieces together, the blockchain, the decentralized consensus, using proof of work, the chain of transactions, and with Bitcoin, this cryptocurrency space started, right? And then 4 years later, of course, Ethereum came, and then the blockchain space started growing very quickly. I think one interesting thing that happens though is that there was this interesting kind of flip of the priorities that people had, right? Because if you look at eCash in 1982, and if you look at all of the like digital cash systems people were trying to make in the 1990s, they were private, but they were not decentralized, right? Bitcoin and like Ethereum also, it's decentralized, but it's not private, right? And the reason why that flipped.
So why the Bitcoin's not private?
Yes, because it had to be decentralized, right? Basically, like for something like this to survive, it needs to be decentralized and not depend on one issuer, right? But we did not have the technology to make something decentralized and private at the same time. All of the cryptography we knew for making something private, it depended on a central issuer. And the technology that allows both at the same time, it's called ZK SNARKs. And it existed in these like very theoretical academic forms since the 1990s, but it was always like extremely difficult in practice. Like if you took the algorithms from 1995 and you tried to like actually make one of them, it would take like 5 hours on a big machine. And it did not really become viable until basically the mid 2010s, and Zcash launched in 2016, right? And so a big reason why I think we're talking about some of these older ideas again is that now like privacy is actually possible again, right? And a lot of these newer Ethereum applications are actually trying to like bring some of those older ideas back in.
Kurt, can you also share your experience about your first experience about
as Beta said, what I met the cyberpunk movement is by the ZK SNARK. That technique is basically it's originally from the academic area, like the PCP things, kind of like that. But I think quickly it can be integrated into the practical ecosystem like Israel, and I can make it more scalable, we can have more privacy in it. So I'm very promising in this technique. So I just to dig it out more about the spirit original of it. And I think it's just the cypherpunk spirit. And during the 1990s, I think, I think that spirit can still benefit us in this area. So,
my first cyberpunk. My first cyberpunk experience was using BitTorrent to download movies from the internet. That feels guilty, but also very exciting. So cyberpunk is a combination of cypher and punk. So cypher is the technology, and punk is the culture part. Berlin has the community of most vital community of cyberpunk. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the cipher is original from Latin or the Greek. Yeah, it's Greek. It's just
No, actually Arabic.
cool. But it's just a kind of symmetric encryption scheme. We can call it a cipher. The punk, the idea is you just need the anti-establishment movement.
Rebellion.
Yeah, rebellion or something. Be cool and be very proud of everything. And so cyberpunk is a combination of both of the technique and the cultural area. Yeah.
So we had in your article about Ethereum cyberpunk again, So you shared about the stories of the Berlin's cyberpunk community and also the restaurants that accept Bitcoin. Can you share about your experience there and the culture of these cyberpunk people?
Have you ever paid with like Bitcoin or ETH at a restaurant, by the way? You have? Where?
In Prague,
Oh, in Prague. Okay.
in yeah,
Mhm.
in that
Can it in Chiang Mai? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think this is something that actually people really tried to push back in 2013, right? When, like basically in Berlin, the thing that was really special was there was this district in Berlin, Kreuzberg, where the owner of one of the restaurants, Georg Platzer, he was a Bitcoin fan, and so he convinced like half the restaurants within 200 meters of him, like I think about like 10 of them, and then like plus some more, and then plus like some other types of stores, to start accepting Bitcoin for payments. And so I visited for a week, and like for a week, basically about half my meals they were paid with Bitcoin. And like in some ways it was almost kind of like a very early precursor to like pop-up cities. Right? But I think what ended up happening there, right, is that back then the like other sort of non-Bitcoin digital payment systems, they were still like very bad quality. They were had very high fees. They were inconvenient, and the Bitcoin fees were also very low. And then since then, like that whole scene, I think, basically got killed because, like on the one hand, the digital systems did get somewhat better, and on like the centralized digital systems. And on the other hand, because of the Bitcoin block size issues, the transaction fees got too high. And later, the transaction fees got too high on Ethereum also, right? And so when that happened, then Bitcoin and Ethereum, basically, yeah, like Bitcoin stopped being that effective for like small scale peer-to-peer payments. And this is actually, yeah, like one of those problems that I think right now is like finally solved. Like for right now, Ethereum, for example, is extremely cheap, right? Like you can send like simple transactions for under 1 cent, and even complex ones for under 5 cents often. And so we're like back to the kinds of prices we had in like 2013, right? And this is basically, I think, I mean, a big part is that we have like the amount of transaction space on the chain has increased by more than a factor of 10 since the beginning, right? And actually this year it's plans to increase by another factor of 5. So that's some, and like we're planning to continue increasing Ethereum's scale even more, right? And so I think all of these technologies that we have in the 2020s that in Ethereum that we did not have before, like they're a good reason to try to like take all of these earlier ideas and really try to bring them back.
Everybody, there is also the C-based Hacker House and Chaos Computer Club. And do you find any other interesting things in the cyberpunk community there, and why do they gather and drive this movement and the culture?
Berlin actually has many interesting things, right? Like the kinds of companies in crypto or even in tech, just general tech that are based there, I think are just all super interesting. They tend to be like very, like values and mission driven. A lot of them really care about privacy. And the city is also like very strong artistically. I mean, I like read some like history articles that basically claims that like one of the reasons why is basically because the city was like split in half, and there was the whole situation after the like the Second World so all the big companies, they like moved out because it was too inconvenient. And like Berlin itself, basically, no big companies, and then eventually when things got better, it was like fairly cheap. A lot of artistic people also moved in, and it's like one of these situations where like the national capital is also like not the really the commercial capital, and yeah, it's like even the non-technical scene, right? If you just like walk along the street, like you see political graffiti and like people, like talking about the need to stop climate change. You see like people protesting all kinds of government actions, and like people, like talking about like the freedom to like have your own lifestyle and like all of these things. And I think in technology, the principles, like the ideals are very similar, and so I think you see a lot of that in like the kinds of Ethereum and crypto projects that are there, in the also even like the kinds of events that run there, like they like they're like if there's a European conference that's talking about cypherpunk, probably it's either in Berlin or in Prague. So there's a lot of interesting things there.
So it's a city of all kinds of punks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the Chiang Mai being like the Asian version of to be a cyberpunk city.
That's
promising.
and it looks promising so far. So of course this is doing a good job.
Cyberpunk and solar punk.
Yes. How do you see that actually the difference between these like different types of punks, right? Because there's cypherpunk, there's solar punk, there's lunar punk.
Yeah, there's many others. Many punks. A thousand society of punks.
Yeah. I think these are all the movement against power and the movement that we cause more freedom. We claim our identity and sovereignty.
When did you like encounter the either the cypherpunk like movement or ideas for the first time?
It was 2012. I joined the P2P committee. There was a group of people in Node.js, and they are doing a lot of WebRTC and DHT stuff. And they have a lot of teach me a lot about the distributed system. Then I go to Berlin for a P2P conference.
What did you find interesting about it?
The first time I find they are crazy people, but they have awesome crazy ideas. And I find that we are a small group of people in the world that know some truths that no other people hold.
I think I like the cyberpunk ideas. As I said, it's in the academic area. Like I'm a researcher in cryptography, so the cryptography is a very historic, some years in the ivory tower, something like that. And but I don't think it has much impact on the society structure. So I just dig it in and to form this movement in the 1990s, and I think it's a very first impression is that's cool.
And also I would like to learn what's the how the cyberpunk culture affected you when you were creating or designing Ethereum.
Yeah, so in Bitcoin's early days, I think one of the really interesting things about it is that it was this like very strong intellectual scene. There were a lot of people from these like cryptography, computer science oriented cypherpunk movements there. there were also people who were looking at it from the perspective of economics and like freedom of money and inflation and like let's make a neutral currency that like can't be arbitrarily inflated by any amount. And there were a lot of other ideas too. There were, I remember there was this thing called like Project Venus, which was doing a resource-based economy, and like that's probably even like closer to communism than capitalism. And so you had like all kinds of different people mixing, right? And this, like I think this early Bitcoin community maybe before about 2013 was like a mix of all of these things, and then. In Ethereum, I like really started from realizing that people wanted to do more things on the blockchain, but you can't just keep making a new blockchain every time there is a new application. And so instead, you put in a programming language, and so anyone can, like once the blockchain exists, anyone can do like any application that they want on top of it, right? And
Like the user universe.
yes, exactly. And then Ethereum started, and actually I think like around that time was the time that like the crypto community started really splitting into different pieces, right? So there was like anyone can download and verify the blocks, but in exchange it means that like because there's few spaces for transactions, the transaction fees go very high. There's big block